Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to please direct your attention to the screen and please welcome Ibu Vivi Yulaswati.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning, Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank for the committee to provide us Bapenas to speak in this very important forum. Secondly, I also would like to apologize because I couldn't come in person today. Initially, I was scheduled to speak yesterday on the July 7, but then it's been scheduled to today. So I really sorry for not being there. I would like to share some of the slide to maybe give the context for the discussion today. I hope you can see clearly these presentations. So, in the context of the National Development Planning, we already put the digital transformations as one of the agenda in the National Development Plan in the long-term development plan 2025-2045, which has been enacted by the law number 59/2024, in which put the transformation of digital be the enabler for all the transformation that we want to have in order to achieve Indonesia as an advanced country by 2045. So it will include the development of the integrated digital ecosystem, the acceleration of digital transformations, and of course, the development of the digital talent. It's been elaborated further in the Midterm Development Plan, RPGMN 2025-2029, which is also part of the President's Prabowo agenda, in which we put it into the National Priority Program. So the digital transformations have been elaborated in the context of the digital economy and the society pillar. This will have a target that Indonesia would be part of the global or would increase the global digital competitiveness index as well as the digital contribution to the GDP. And then also in the context of digital infrastructure pillar, of course, we are islands and fast. So enhancing digital connectivity to support integrated infrastructure would necessary. Some of the targets include to increase the infrastructure stock to GDP ratio, and then National ICT Development Index, as well as the National Digital Transformation Index. And then on the digital government pillar, this is actually a reform or transform from what we call as the electronic based government or SPBE. Now, instead of only the electronic base, we would like to have system to system communications on the data, for example. So for this regard, the PN7 will talk about or it's about the policy on the strengthening political, legal, and also bureaucratic reform. So currently it's been progressing the digitalizations for the social assistance, later on the digitalizations on the ease of doing business, and of course applying to other sectors. This slide only shows about the role of the industrial sectors in which based on the BPS or the Central Bureau of Statistics, that actually the contributions of sectors to GDP mainly coming from the manufacturing industry, trade, repair, and vehicles and motorcycle, and the agriculture, forestry, and fishing, construction, as well as on the mining, quarrying. So these all support the growth of Indonesia, in which on the quarter one achieved by 5.61. Indonesia really committed to build a strong manufacturing industry. We have experiencing what we call as a premature deindustrialization. So now we learn from other countries, the neighboring countries like Vietnam, that we must to make a manufacturing industry become a strong one, because it provide job opportunity, provide the room for a new technology and innovations and so on. So there have been actually a roadmap for making Indonesia 4.0, in which over a great potential to significantly improve labor productivities, and in turn, of course, enhance the global competitiveness, increase the export market share, and also creating a global value chains by having a significant export volume. So the contributions of the 5 priority manufacture sectors, we've seen here on some stats around 60% contribute to Indonesia manufactured GDP, and also around 60% of industrial employment. So it is really working to provide a job opportunity for many Indonesians. However, Indonesia manufacturing sector still in the early stage of digital maturity. On the left-hand side, you could see here the most advanced in the context of the industry is actually on the financial services and on the retail and commerce. The others like healthcare, manufacturing, logistic, and supply chains, up until to the agriculture and marine and fisheries, still emerging. Somehow they are stagnant. So despite the Making Indonesia 4.0 roadmap already introduced, only 6% of manufacturers have adopted Industry 4.0 technologies, while 64% remain at the digitalization stage, so as an early stages. So combined with the stagnant productivity, high labor costs, and also limited innovations, make us challenges to continue, and of course become a constraint to the digital transformations and the global competitiveness productivities. Now we are in the digital era. We are talking with the digital natives. So of course there is a great hope that it will make Indonesia more advanced through the digital transformations, that not only to boost the economic growth but also to enhance the community welfare. So we could see here that the development of adoption of AI across the key sectors, it is projected for the Southeast Asia GDP could contribute about 13% by 2030, primarily through the increased production and improved operational efficiency. So in Indonesia, the adoption of AI is projected to contribute up to 366 billion US dollar, or around 5,500 trillion rupiah to the country of GDP by 2030. Of course, the growth is being accelerated by the digitalizations in many sectors. The Indonesia digital economy in 2025 stood up at the cups of 100 billion US dollar, yeah. So with country registering around 14% growth in gross merchandise values from the previous year, of course, we could estimate it or project it that Indonesian digital economy could further expected to reach a minimum of 180 billion by 2030. This show that the growth has come on the back of double-digit increase in every sectors, including the e-commerce, online travels, online media, transport and food, and I believe many more, including on the financial uh, uh, literacy, yeah, or educations. I think it's really relate by the digitalization. We could also improve the financial inclusions and also the productivity through the introduce of the technology, innovation, and of course the AI itself. So this come from the new study by AWS and Sand Partners that reveals while the AI adoption continues to rise, still a widening gap is emerging between agile startups and more established enterprises. And this risking a two-speed economy means that the AI adoption is accelerating, benefiting the AI adoptions. However, still primarily in a basic stage. Yeah. So of course, all these stats could be our reference to whether we should speed up or we should deepening, improve the quality of the AI adoptions to the current sectors that have been introduced or engaged with the AI in their businesses. I think startups will adopt AI faster and more deeply because, like I mentioned earlier, many startups or enterprise now engage or has been managed by the digital native. Yeah, so it's like a Gen Z that while they are just born, they already know about the cell phone, for example. So of course, this is a challenge as well as our task how to unlock the Indonesian AI potential. Of course, we are talking about how to improve the AI skills. For example, in Tsinghua University, I just visited 2 weeks ago. They provide a scholarship in the IC as well as on the AI businesses. Uh, and in fact, they also provide an opportunity for innovations by giving a patent or processing the patent. So the IP, the intellectual property, has been endorsed through the university, even to the foreign students there. So I think from the universities could be also an enabler in the context of AI adoptions in Indonesia businesses because they also become a hub for connecting many small and medium enterprises, including the startups, to the skills and also the talent in the AI sector, in the AI implementation. Other is on how to deepen AI adoptions, not only on the surface understanding, but also how to really make the AI to be built in our business model. Yeah. So of course we are talking about the reform or transform on the business process, and uh, this has to go through many try and error, I would say. So we could start with the sandboxing, and then when we have achieved some step or stages, we could also invite or have a discussion with the government to construct the regulations and other foundations. Currently, we are in the progress or almost finally the presidential decree on the AI. I think it's really opened up other opportunity how to regulate the AI itself. Actually, we have developed the AI ethics documents that will also serve many of us on how to use the AI on our businesses in the right way. Yeah, and then also the right way means how to really improve or approve that AI adoptions could boost the productivity and also our competitiveness. And of course, this will improve, expand our export and also the investment. And at the end, it's create more job opportunities. Uh, I think some of other stats you could see here, it is actually a result from collaborations between universities, industries, and of course the government, in which there are still room for improvement for all of us to collaborate further on the AI adoptions. The AI readiness itself for Indonesia compared to Southeast Asia countries, we are quite okay in terms of the Southeast Asian businesses, but I think we have to scrutinize that other countries is also moving. Yeah, so several systemic challenges are hindering companies in Southeast Asia for scaling the AI initiatives. For example, in Singapore, it has introduced around 61 governance initiatives to foster an AI enabling environment, but other countries are lag behind. Yeah, that's including also Indonesia. For example, uh, low investment in the AI, where the majority of markets, excluding Singapore for sure, invest less than uh, $1 per capita. Yeah. So of course, combined with the underdeveloped digital ecosystem, infrastructure, and significant skill gap, uh, it will remain a key barrier. So that's why I think all of these numbers really open eye on how we will move together in the near future in the context on the AI readiness uh, to boost the businesses as well as the productivities, and at the end we would like to see the growth is also increase. Indonesia actually is the key hub to Southeast Asia AI future. Not only we are the biggest country in the Southeast Asia in terms of populations and also an area, but actually we are quite ready in the context of the regulation and the government support. The other governments also moving, but of course, we have to bring a maturity of all of us on the implementation of the AI. So basically, applying in many use case of the AI in more deepen, yeah, not only on the surface, but improve our productivity, analytical capacity to really use AI to boost our productivities. So this is actually only shows that each country has its strength in attracting foreign investment based on its unique advantages and also limitations. The right choice really depends on the investor's business needs, whether prioritizing market access, productivity, production efficiency, and also long-term growth are the key. For Indonesia, expanding market as we are the largest economy in Southeast Asia with abundant natural resource and vast domestic market really open up an opportunity for us in the usage of AI. And of course, the large market and government focus on the digital infrastructure development would support the implementations of AI to really boost the Indonesia's economic growth. I think that's all that I could share. I do hope that the discussions today will be fruitful and of course would be benefiting for all of us. I really hope that we could see each other in person and have further discussion. Again, thank you very much. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.